Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DCMI podcast. My name is Raymond. This is Jacob, and we are here to talk about Green Lantern Corps issue number 1. This one was probably one of my favorites. And if you don't know what we're doing here, we're going to grade this on 4 things: story, artwork, characters, and if we're going to keep reading it or not. 1 through 5 scale. I think that answers all the questions. Jacob, why
Yep.
don't you start with the story?
Cool. All right. So story. I always start on my rating, and I'm rating it a 3.5 out of 5.
Oh,
So
you said 3.5.
3.5.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. All right.
And it's some of the reasoning I'll get into when we get to like the characters,
Okay.
but it's not bad. It's well above average. But this one, there were a lot of characters.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I had to flip back and forth, to kind of keep track of some of them. And some of them were like introduced and then
Mhm.
they weren't that prominent throughout
Yeah.
the rest of the issue.
So to be
Uh,
fair, and I know I get why you feel that way, but almost all of the lanterns that you see
mm,
are like legacy characters. They're not new. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So they just didn't make up those characters. Guy Garner is there. Jess, I forget her name. They even put
Jessica,
Kyle
yeah.
Rayner on the cover,
Yeah,
and they had him in the back.
yeah.
They had him in the back. I was like, no way they're doing this to Kyle Rayner, man. And I bet you that I can tell you why they did that.
What month are we?
Somebody Google who co-created Kyle Rayner.
That's
Google it.
right. When I say a lot of characters, the Green Lantern is what a cosmic kind of law enforcement
Yeah,
kind of agency, right? They
exactly
like
what it
make
is.
sure things fall in line. But in my mind, in one issue, we're talking about like 21, 22 pages of content, right?
Yeah.
If there's characters, for me, at least my preference is that they need to be either one and done, like one panel or 2 panels, so I know that they exist and they're off in the background doing their thing, or they need to be throughout the issue,
Okay.
so I kind of have an idea of like why they're in the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of these like characters, they were mentioned and then it was kind of like, okay, they're gone and they're not. There's no callbacks. There's no references. And this is issue 1. So
Yep.
believe me, I'm taking that in context that, okay, you're kind of like thrust in the middle of just the day-to-day operations of the Green Lantern Corps. They're busy. They're training. They're sending out agents across the cosmos, the criminals that they're processing, and all that
rebuilding it.
stuff. And they're rebuilding.
Yep.
What was it? The United Planet.
Yeah,
I love
whatever that is. I have no idea what that is. I had no idea.
And what was the guy's name? The bad guy we introduced to Conjuro.
Yeah, it's a weird alien name. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Conjaro.
Yeah. One thing that, and this is just the engineer nerd in me, not the
Gotcha.
comic book nerd.
Yeah.
I think it was page 3. You have this transport ship in the, and then you see Conjur's pirate ship. There's a big ass hole on the side of it, and then just ropes. Tell me, how did he get from that ship into this transport ship?
I see
It's
what you're
like,
saying. I'm guessing. Okay, here. If you want me to guess, you see how the wing is. He walked across it, and I bet you it opens up on the side.
he sprungboard
Yeah.
into the superhero landing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what.
And I like that all of his, I guess, goons were like, immediately I thought of Wookiees,
Okay.
like Chewbacca characters, because they're like big and hairy and they look like out of Star Wars.
Yeah, I see that now. I wasn't thinking that before, but I can definitely see especially when they're getting, when he rolls the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say this, the story of Sinestro and the other character.
Yep, Vixu, or I call her Vex. I just wrote down Vex.
Yeah, let's call her Vex. I think that was excellent. Yeah. Like his interaction with her, I wish that was more than half of the issue, because you kind of see Sinestro was a good guy, then a bad guy, then kind of back to a good guy. And people are suspicious of him. He has reputation, but no doubt he has power. And it's not just, the raw power from the ring and constructs. It's also his understanding of the emotions.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That to me was awesome. I really like that. But yeah, I see these characters, man, dude, there was like, I think count 15 or something, and they're just thrown in there. And then they're mentioned. So that's why I had 3.5.
And that's the nature of the Green Lantern Corps. Like, if you put them all together, there's just
Oh,
gonna be a bunch of them going back and forth.
just a sea of
I get that.
green.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And you know what's funny though? Actually, I wrote that down. I
Yeah.
understand there's a lot of characters in the core, right? So we
Yeah.
can't linger on everyone. But I think the thing that makes the Green Lantern cool as a group is that even though there's so many, you can kind of see their personalities because all their costumes are different, you know.
And the constructs.
And they're no, like they're suits that the all
Yeah.
of the Green Lanterns are wearing. I don't think they're constructs.
No, like John Stewart, right? When he was fighting Conjuro, he had the police shield and then
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
helm. You're in some, faraway galaxy.
Right,
What
right.
does
You're just
police
using the
mean to?
police.
Yeah, exactly.
All of their costumes are different, and they like whenever the characters were created,
Mm,
like whatever costume they had, they brought it over. So all of their
yeah,
costumes are very different. And I just think that's a very cool way of giving them personality without being able to get to know a lot of them. You know, if this was a galactic police force, they would all be dressed the same.
yeah,
You know
just
what
the
I mean?
same.
But the fact that they're all getting to show their personality, I think is a good compensation for not being able to get to know all of them.
Yeah, it's the costumes and like it's front and center on the cover, right? You see all the
Exactly.
different characters. For me,
Especially
the
page 3. Sorry, hold on.
page three.
Page 3 when
Yeah,
he's on the ship and all of the lanterns are in the page. You get to look and see all the different costumes and like
yeah.
I love it.
The constructs to me are kind of what I see as the biggest factor differentiating their personalities. So like, John Stewart when he said bowling ball.
Yeah. I don't know if it was directly bowling ball, but he
So I thought it was a bowling ball, but I looked just to the left and it's a wrecking ball. There's a little
Oh,
hinge
okay.
and a
Okay.
cable. And I was like, okay, I thought it was a bowling ball. He was going to say strike or something,
Yeah.
but he's a wrecking ball. There's a couple details in the story that I really liked. This, I think, is kind of like the cartoon version of what you would think like a New York City police precinct office would be like in the
Yeah.
70s.
Oh yeah.
Um, just loud and busy and
There's stuff
people
going
going
all the like
all
everywhere.
over.
Somebody's having their own adventure. Like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Go to page 7. There's two at the bottom panel. There's two things here. So John Stewart's he has Conjuro in handcuffs, and he's like moving him to a processing facility, whatever. There's like this gel water creature.
Yeah.
You see,
That
he's starting to
freezes.
no, he's starting to expand. He's getting bigger, and you can kind of like see through him. You can kind of like see the handcuffs, and then on the next page he explodes. But no one cares. It's like only the Green
Oh, I
Lantern
see.
that
Yeah,
sits
yeah.
across from him. Is like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
And
saying?
just keep doing his whole thing.
Yeah,
And then you
it's
see Guy Gardner holding the baby,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
after that stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like all the it's just so busy in the background, but people are just doing their thing. There's like Joe, a Mullion. She's kind of like a detective
Yep, yep,
with
yep,
the cool glasses.
yep.
She has a manila or like some type of folder
Envelope, yeah.
envelope. All the technology and
Yeah, and you're
all
still
the
using
cosmic
envelope.
power. Like I
And
love
and
it.
there's paperwork on Jess's desk. There's like actual paperwork on her desk.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
like I
I
gotta
didn't
go
even
to
think about that. But and it's like in space. This was not invented by humans, so aliens use paper too. Like what?
yeah.
Oh man.
It's like
But no, yeah, that's a good point. So you gave it a 3.5?
3.5. Yeah. What
Okay.
about you?
I gave it a 4.5
Okay.
because before we even get to the actual meat of the story, John Stewart's my favorite Green Lantern. Got love for Hal Jordan, got love for Guy Garner, got love for Kyle Rayner, got love for all of them. But John Stewart is just my favorite Green Lantern, right? And for him to be the pretty facing lead, I was like, cool, I love this
Mm-hmm.
already, right? I'm into it. Because for me, I personally, I'm sure, well, I see, I was just about to say something, and then I realized there was a movie that John Stewart had in 24, 25. I will put it right here, but it wasn't good. But aside from that, John Stewart is very good in everything he's in, right? The opening fight scene was cool, right? Just to get straight to the action. And then I even showing up front, the police shield, just to kind of remind you that this is a police force. Then when they got to the, facility, whatever it's called, just getting to see a couple of the relationships I thought
Yeah.
was very well written for the small time we got.
Yep.
because it's very clear, like John and Joe, like you mentioned with the glasses, they're very much like brother and sister kind of relationship, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like she cares a lot about him. Everybody else is kind of asking him about the job and all this, but she's the only one who asked him about how he's actually doing, you know?
Mhm.
And then I believe it's uh Jess and whoever the guy is. Oh man, I should have wrote down his name. That's my bad. Oh,
The guy
Simon.
that was
Simon.
yeah, Simon that was talking
Yep.
with Jess in her,
Yep.
office. Yeah.
Yep. I don't think maybe I missed it. I don't think they explicitly said, but I definitely got a couple relationship from them.
Mm.
But I will say the story did get weird at one point. I don't know how you feel about it, but I wrote this down specifically. I was like, a construct of his sister is the most comic booky thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I said, it's cute, I guess, but bro needs to grieve properly. Like, bro needs to go to therapy or something, man.
Listen, so I wrote this down, and I'm glad you brought this up because I was like, I highlighted it. Okay, the words they used, a construct brought to life.
Right.
What help me explain?
Look,
Is there
I can't, I don't, I,
another energy source? Is this like the most advanced AI slash fear energy? Like, how is she alive?
genuinely, Jacob, I read that. I laughed and then I just moved on because
Moved
I was
on,
like, I don't even want to know. I don't care. I don't want to know how this
and
happened.
I'm like, how does this construct exist outside the ring? Because all the constructs, they're sourced from the ring and then they
Yeah,
go
and they
out.
disappear. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and they
I
they
genuinely
dissipate
don't
after some
know.
time.
Don't know. Exists on her
Construct,
own.
exactly.
That's crazy.
Like
So
when I
I said that, but that was the one goofy part where I was like, okay, they didn't need to add this in here, but I'm sure it comes from something that we don't know. Just with no context, it's
yeah.
crazy. It's insane.
Now also, it's like John's plugged in, right? He's well respected and he has friendships and maybe
I would say the
relationships among
leader,
the
obviously, like
core.
very clearly.
Yeah, like the unofficial leader. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He doesn't have the title captain, or whatever,
Exactly.
but
Yep.
he's plugged in, and everyone's just, oh yeah, there's Ellie. There's this construct that is autonomous, just walk
No,
because
but
it's
that's what I'm
John's
saying.
sister.
Joe, they all talk about it behind his back. But
Ah,
Joe
shit,
is the
yeah.
only one that was like, "Hey, Joe,
You want to talk
do you want
about?
to
Yeah,
talk about something? Are you okay?" She's the only one who from that group chat like went to go talk to him about it. Cuz
it's
everybody thinks it's weird.
that was funny.
In the police station whatever it is,
Yeah,
I did think it was cool when they were having their meeting, right? When they were at the I don't know, the ball of like the
the
sectors
Grand
or
Hall, the
whatever.
big one.
Yeah, yeah, yep, the Great
Okay,
Hall.
yeah, yep,
Exactly.
Great
I
Hall.
thought that was cool because at least for me, I've not read a lot of Green Lantern Corps where they're all together, and
Hmm.
you get to actually see their briefings about all the stuff that's going on in the different sectors, the different things that each of them have to go do. Most of the time, at least when you're watching Justice League stuff or reading Justice League stuff, the Green Lanterns are dealing with stuff on Earth, so it's pretty cool
Hmm.
to see all the things that they have to like deal with,
Yep.
outside of that. So yeah, I thought that scene was cool.
And two things about the Great Hall. One, that table, that big ring table.
Yep.
I
Yeah, yeah.
I came up with a scenario in my head. I have to imagine when people, it's so big, when people are sitting down, unless they have like super advanced audio technology, people be like, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
What?
yeah. Oh,
Can you
yeah. In
repeat
real
that?
life, for
It's like
sure.
this
For
huge
sure.
thing.
I
Like,
imagine they have to have mics right here.
yeah.
Like, just some kind of alien microphone or something like that. Yeah,
What if they use?
absolutely.
What if they wrote anything on paper though? Like all the meeting, like
And they
they ain't
just passed
record.
it around the
They pass
table.
it around, old school. And then the second thing, all the lanterns, you don't get a sense that there is a hierarchy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just all peers, and
Yep.
I like that about character development. You have an agency that fights, enforces laws or justice, and it's not militaristic. Where okay, the captain, final word, I tell you what to do. Nothing like
Exactly.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think that what you're saying is absolutely part of it too, because when Sinestro, joins immediately, you're like, okay, so he's about to be on some shit
Mm,
immediately, right? Like that's just there's no way to not think that when you see Sinestro.
mm.
Especially you see Green Lantern Sinestro,
Yeah, yeah,
like and not pre turning Yellow Lanterns when he was still
yep,
kind of a good guy. But
yeah.
this Sinestro, after all the bullshit, you're like, okay, they're being funny.
Mhm.
But I love the fight scene and said the part of the story when he actually talks to Vex,
Vex.
when he actually talks to her and, shows her how to literally overcome great fear. I thought
Mhm.
that was probably one of the, I don't know if heartwarming is the right word, but it was one of the moments where it was like, damn, that was actually a good moment. You know what I mean?
I mean, John was kind of like sarcastic, saying, "Show us why you were once called the
Absolutely.
greatest Green Lantern."
Yep.
And so
Yep.
that was the insight of that type of kind of skill set.
Exactly. And I wrote down too, being afraid is not a weakness. Fear is a sharpening stone that hones the blade of your mind. I was like,
Sinestro was
okay.
dropping dimes in
Yeah, he
this
was
issue.
dropping dimes. He was.
Like,
And then at the end, yeah, he said, I am the greatest Green Lantern that ever lived. Like, I might have been on some bullshit before, man, but don't you forget. Like,
that's my
that's the kind of
resume.
energy it was. It was like
Yeah,
talking to somebody's old ass uncle that like
yeah.
still thinks he can hoop, but like he low key still can't
But
hoop.
he
You know what I
can.
mean?
That's
Yeah,
the thing.
exactly. But he still can. Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I did 3.5 out of 5. You did 4.5 out of
That's like,
5.
yep.
All right. Next is artwork.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah, I gave this a
Okay.
4.5 out of 5. There were particularly a couple of panels, like, I loved how the artist kinda laid out the issue, because when you flip the page, you had a splash of Sinestro when he introduced himself, because he
Yep.
said, "If fear is involved, Sinestro will be your guy." That was sick as shit.
I
He was front and center. You can immediately get a vibe of, like, how he's gonna, integrate himself with his team,
menace.
kind of yeah,
Menace.
I l
Menace.
I love that. It was just like, bam. I
Yeah.
love the artwork. And then when they got to the what planet Tamaran, I think it is?
Tamaran. Dope.
Oh, the name?
Yeah, no, Tamaran is a I don't know if you ever heard of Starfire. She's not
Yeah.
like super popular.
With
That's
the
where she
Teen
comes from.
Titans? Yeah.
Yeah, Teen Titans, exactly.
Right.
And Blackfire's her sister.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was thinking Blackfire,
Yeah.
but I didn't research it,
Yeah.
but I was like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Starfire's
Okay.
sister.
That's
This is
her
where
sister.
Starfire comes from. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And on that, I was like, damn, I actually don't know if I ever seen the Tamaran before. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I've ever actually seen the planet before. So it's pretty cool.
All the panels were beautiful.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that big construct that Vex was subconsciously creating that she wasn't even aware of, and she thought it
Yep.
was like the god Exhal, I think it is, or
Something.
goddess.
Yep.
Every single panel, I was like, dope, dope,
I
dope,
agree.
dope.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything about when they were on Tamaran was cool as hell to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. I agree. Okay. So I said I gave it a 4.5 too.
4.5.
But I say to myself that the like style itself wasn't very revolutionary or whatever, right? I don't think the style that they chose was, again, not to compare it to Mr. Terrific, but not like Mr. Terrific where it's shockingly different on something, right? But the way that they used the artwork and the way that they used the constructs, I don't think you could have done it any cooler. You know what I'm saying? I genuinely think it's one of the coolest 5-6 pages, that I've seen in a very long time. So everything on Tamaran was incredible.
There was one thing I forgot to mention going back to Sinestro. So, he has like a reddish skin, right? So I've seen him more so in animated series, but depicted is Crayola red kind of skin, like bright, vibrant red. I really like that they used it was like a reddish,
almost
brownish,
like the dirt chalk for tennis.
yes, like a clay color.
Clay,
You know what I mean?
thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Especially when he was in panels with Hal Jordan, you could definitely see. Okay, it's not like black or brown human skin.
Yep.
Like cartoonish, just bright
Yeah,
red.
it's realistic.
It's realistic.
Yeah, I agree. What was it? The Great Hall. It highlights how little their numbers are in here. Because you got to imagine before, because we were saying how chaotic it is, now.
Yeah.
But before whatever happened, how much more chaotic everything was,
Yeah.
right? And I just saw that the scale that they were able to show, I thought that was cool because it highlights the struggle that they're in. They're not the old Green Lanterns anymore.
Yep.
I thought that
Yep.
was excellent. But yeah, I don't even think I have anything more to say in what you said. Every location, it felt intergalactic. It felt, it didn't feel like you were on Earth. It wasn't boring. I almost want to give it a 5, honestly. I almost
Yeah,
want
if you
to.
want.
I kind of do now that I'm saying all this out loud. Yeah,
Okay,
change it to 5. I'm
change
gonna
to
do
5.
5
All right.
because
There's a
even
couple-
too, I don't know. Did you read the teaser with Atrocitus?
Towards the back?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
when the ruins of Thanagar,
Yeah.
that page, I was like, dang, that is crazy. And then the next one over, when you see the ship, that Atrocitus is on
Mm,
with the little beam coming
mm.
down from it. Man, I don't know what it is, but I would make this like my phone case cover or something if I was feeling crazy, you know?
There were some things that I liked right at the beginning, um, when, Jon Stewart was fighting Kanjaro, he made a big construct of Superman with the,
Hmm.
classic pose,
Oh yeah.
and the lasers from his, I guess, Kanjaro's goons or whatever, they were, like, just bouncing off. I was like, "That's super cool." What's happening to the other side of them lasers, though? They hitting something, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
deflecting, and
Oh, and they're
that's like
getting
a
hit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I will say Green Lanterns don't have a no kill rule as far as I
right.
know.
Right,
So
it's like, I got my mission, I got
yeah,
my target,
exactly.
and
But
whatever
no, that's
happens.
what I was saying at the end. It's like a teaser for the next issue.
Was there anything else on artwork?
No, no. Based on what you said, my little 2 cents about the way I like the teaser for issue number 2,
Mm,
all of it was incredible, amazing. I
yeah,
changed my answer to 5.
yeah, I was 4.5, you're 5, yeah, the artwork, I liked it. Characters, okay, you start.
So I gave the characters a 4.5. Throughout every place they were at, we it wasn't a lot, but we got enough for me to be on board with the relationship building, right? When they were in the police station for the first third, you got
Mhm,
to see the Joe and John's relationship. You got to see who was it? Jesse and
Jess and
Simon's
Simon,
relationship, you know. And then you got to just see all of them kind of have to collaborate together without the Guardians, right?
yep,
Like this is the first time where I've seen the Green Lanterns have to like kind of solve their own problems, in terms of working as a team, right? But
okay,
I thought it was really cool that we got to see them actually having to be in the chair, figuring out logistics, right? Imagine having to deal like the logistics of a cosmic police force, right? That's insane if you really think about it. So I thought that was pretty cool. And like I said before, John Stewart was great. The peek into his personality, right?
yeah,
As sad as it was good, character building for me. And I said this earlier, but I think a very cool way of giving the characters expression is having them have their own suits, and
mhm.
even suits that fit their alien kind of what I'm assuming is the style on their planet, you know what I mean? And so I think that was one of the best ways to give all the characters who didn't get a lot of time to kinda show their personality, you know? And I think the best character in this issue, I don't think we've done this, but for me, the best character in this issue was Sinestro, hands down, no question.
Yeah, yeah,
So
um,
4.5 for me if I didn't say that.
point 5? For me, it's 4 out of 5,
Okay,
and
okay.
part of the
I
reason why I
thought you were
gave
gonna
the
go way lower. I thought you were gonna go way
so
lower.
it's a little reverse. So part of the reason why I gave the story 3.5 out of 5 as opposed to 4 or something higher, but I gave the characters a higher score is because I liked that I can flip back and forth and kind of just understand the relationships between among characters.
Mm,
To me, it was kind of like separate from the story because the story was really John Stewart understanding that okay, our Green Lantern Corps is kind of stretched thin. The other power batteries are either destroyed or
I think they're
depleted or
just
what they're destroyed. And then the emotional spectrum that's kind
yeah,
of disarraying. You have these
yeah,
fractal
yeah.
lanterns and and
Very
and
cool way of dealing with the emotional spectrum. I have to admit, it was very
yeah.
cool way, for sure. Yeah,
And
yeah,
when they got on Tamaran, from that first instance to the end, that's a 6 out of 5 for me. Like,
sure.
that
I
part of the
agree.
story, but the beginning, I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
One thing that you said about, it's this intergalactic police force, the logistics. So you're covering essentially the universe, and there's all sorts of life forms and kind of like,
Currency and
currency and
yep,
energies and whatnot and
languages.
forces. So not only is it the logistics of just how many people we have, where are the fires and where do we have to deploy our troops essentially. What about the physiology? The Green Lantern is a certain alien, and unless they're in full power mode with their force field and with their power ring, they can just die immediately.
Yep, sending them off. Absolutely.
So when I was going through all these characters, I was like, my God, man, well, think of the database of like the profiles of all these Green Lanterns and how best to deploy because everyone has different experience, right?
Yep,
Your power level is based on your willpower.
yep.
So if you're like some aliens, I assume are just hard headed, like always wanting to fight, like what Kilowog?
Kilowog, yep.
Yeah,
That's a
he's
great
like,
example.
let's
Absolutely.
fight.
Yep.
Yeah, just fight.
Yeah. I want to pummel somebody.
I want to
Yep.
pummel someone.
Yep.
I'm a professional
Yep.
wrestler. Let's go.
Yep. Yep.
So I like that there are
You know
all
the
these
sad
characters
answer,
that make
though?
you think about it.
You know
What?
the answer? I hate it that it's the answer, but in this, and I'm only talking about this specific situation in this Green Lantern story, I believe the only way you'd be able to manage that is like AI or something. Like you'd have all of the categories, right, of who's
Right.
best at what, doing what.
Yeah, yeah.
All the thousands of Green Lanterns. There's no way that during each problem that comes up, you'd be like, let me figure out who can do it. You'd have to
Right.
have some kind of like intelligence. Maybe don't call it AI. I don't know, but some kind of
Yeah.
like higher intelligence to sift through that information.
But like
It's like you said it, it's the universe. Think of how many Green Lanterns there would actually have to be to fully cover every, because there's a Green Lantern for every sector is usually
Right.
how it works.
Yeah, yeah, and then once they're deployed, right, they can't be available for another, mission or whatever. But also, like the rings, I think it was towards the end when they were talking, like Jess and John Stewart and Sinestro, they're talking about how to rebuild their ranks, and they were saying, well, the
Yep.
ring was a sentient energy that can like
just used
pick.
to pick people when somebody
Yeah.
dies. Yep.
But now they're going through a more human formal process of, okay,
Yeah.
let me see this candidate.
Yep.
Let me interview them in a certain way, see what they can do, and then
Yep.
let's pull them in and give them a trial run.
Yeah, and I love that because it actually gives them way more agency.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It makes
of who's who.
it makes them their failure or success really, really, really on them. Because they
They're
could blame the
basically
Guardians
taking
before
accountability.
of making mistakes, but now everything they do is on them.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, here's one thing, Raymond, about a character. Blackfire. Holy shit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I feel like in real life, the Tamaranian women
Yeah.
would probably be like the most gorgeous women in that universe. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not just her sister. I don't know if you should Google Starfire right
I know what
this
she
very
looks
second.
like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because obviously.
I didn't make the
Yeah.
connection of Blackfire and Starfire, but
Yeah.
yeah.
1000%. I mean, even the woman who gets the Green Lantern ring, you know what I mean? Which is crazy thing to say about a comic book character. But it is absolutely true. It's true.
And John Stewart knew who she was, right?
Didn't know who he was.
She didn't know who he was, so he knew of her.
Oh, yeah.
So within seconds of her just looking at him, she's like,
meat.
Bet.
Meat.
Like,
meat.
God damn. There was
and then it doesn't even get better with Hawk Girl at the end.
Well, we'll get
good
there.
Lord.
We'll get there. But here's a question. You tell me this.
Yeah.
You said that when you saw Tamaran, right, the city, right?
Yeah.
It's a metropolis, it's advanced, it has huge buildings and all that. Are you telling me in the whole goddamn planet only the Queen is fighting? There ain't no army, there ain't no defense force, there ain't no, guardians or police or anything. She has to do everything. Maybe that's why she's so aggressive.
I don't know the answer to that question specifically, but I feel like it's probably a cultural thing somehow because the Queen and her sister, Blackfire and Starfire, they had this beef about being Queen of Tamaran and they would fight about it. So I feel like it's maybe the expectation that the Queen stops whatever it is.
Everything.
You know what I mean? This is my only guess because you're right. That is very weird. You're talking all that shit and you don't have an army with you?
Exactly.
What?
and then it's also like the battle's going on and this construct's like destroying things and
what is everybody else doing?
What is everyone else doing?
Just watch it. Just
She said, John Stewart, you be a fine concubine. Like, bruh.
Crazy to call this grown man concubine. It's insane. It's insane.
I
was reading. I was like, whoa. I was like, oh.
For all the characters named, right? There was one character that was in multiple panels, multiple pages, that was not named. You know who it was? It was the female lantern on this 3-person team with John Stewart and Sinestro. She was not mentioned.
Oh, they didn't say her name
they
at all.
They didn't say her. I was looking, I was
realize,
like, man,
the alien.
That's some
honestly,
bullshit.
you're right. Why even have her there?
She's fighting. You see her costume, which is very unique. And I'm
it's very cool. It's a very cool costume.
You can't just name her.
I realize why, like, in comic books, a character will say, Jacob, you see that? You know what I mean? And I get why. Because people be like, I don't know who that is. You got to say who that is to me. I mean, it's crazy because I didn't even really think about it too much, but now that you're saying it, you're absolutely
Like,
right. I
man,
did
give her
think
some
though
love.
when I saw her, I did think the costume is very cool. I was like, that
Yeah.
costume is dope as shit for sure.
Like
Yeah,
I was like, and she's on a team with John Stewart and Sinestro. She's up
right. So
there.
she's got to be up there for
She
sure.
got to have skills and
Right.
experience. So, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say this one thing with the character arc that I found a little cartoony to me,
Mm-hmm.
little
Mm-hmm.
sophomoric, if I want to use
Okay.
that word.
Okay.
So Vex, right? She is some type of religious fanatic or
A
something.
fanatic or
The queen
deep,
knew who
just
she
deeply.
was.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
You know, she called her out.
An
So
embarrassment or something.
yeah, what did she say exactly? It was like
Oh, the zealot. She called her a
zealots,
zealot.
yes. So like this person has some type of reputation, Vex.
That's true. I didn't think about that, but yeah.
But so she was convinced that this goddess was coming back to Tamaran to exact revenge on people that didn't believe, and she was freaking out and all this stuff. In 2 seconds after talking with Sinestro, oh yeah, I'll be a Green Lantern. And like I'm just gonna change my life fundamentally. Like my whole life I've been on Tamaran and I believe in this God and this religion and I dress like all cool and shit. And then the Queen knows who I am, so I've crossed circles with literally the ruler of the planet. And then this dude comes in and he just like, says some cool one-liners. Yes, I would like to be a Green. Is that how it worked?
Devil's advocate for her.
Okay.
If John Stewart himself came down to Earth and looked me in the eyes, looked me in my soul and said,
Yeah.
I want you to be a Green Lantern, do you have any idea what I would do?
Yeah, you would like if you had a phone in your hand, literally it would drop to the floor that second, and you would be out.
Done.
Yeah.
Gone. You could have stopped. You didn't even have to say anything. You could have just held it out. And we don't even have to talk. We don't have to say words. You hold the ring out. I give you a thumbs up. We go.
So
yeah, I get that.
That tells me that even though they made a comment that like the ring force doesn't make the explicit selections of future lanterns, I think it did because there has to be some commonality of the mind of like emotional will, power, and control and whatnot.
Well, and that's what he said. That's what Sinestro said.
Yeah.
He said that she proved that she can overcome great fear or whatever the actual phrase was. You know what I mean? So I think that in and of itself was her proving that she's worthy of a Green Lantern.
But I'm saying from her perspective, right? Because we said she was a fanatic. A fanatic is not rational. They're not
but
reasonable.
that's what Blackfire said, though, to be fair. Blackfire seems like kind of an asshole. That's what I would say. And to be fair, Blackfire is kind of an asshole in general. Like she's an asshole to Starfire. Like in a bad way. Yeah. So she's kind of a dick. So that makes sense. And I think that her saying that to that woman would make her want to go even more. She's probably like, look, you know what? Absolutely, I want to leave this damn planet. For sure.
She already got green eyes. It's going to go well with her costume.
Yeah,
so why not?
Yeah, I want to leave. Yes. If I lived in a place where they called me a zealot and I had an opportunity to leave.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I'd go. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Especially to another planet. Yes, please.
So we can go on to I forgot how the fuck I mentioned this. Hot Girl.
Yeah.
Her design, man, her boots, the bird feet kind of overlay on top of it. That was
cool.
So cool to me.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I've never seen that ever in any other, interpretation of her character desigin, but
it's very cool. I agree.
Like, God damn, that was the first thing I noticed. I was like,
but
shit.
It's funny that you say that though. Last thing, I actually, other than now that I'm really looking at the boots, I like the boots, but I don't like the costume in general. I just don't like this version.
Doesn't her belt almost look like the Batman symbol?
A little bit. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
That's
I just like the more iconic look for her
with the wings.
Not even just the wings. The way I don't like the black. I don't know. Not for her character.
She
Normally
looks like
I love a black outfit switch up, but not for her.
She looks like she stopped in Apocalypse for a minute.
And
went shopping there, and then came.
I mean, look, she really looks like she's trying to go dommy mommy on everybody. Is what the outfit looks like to me. Like if you like to pay for that kind of content, I can definitely see that being an outfit that would appear. You know what I mean? So I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan.
And the lanterns, this was I think the last page. The lanterns behind her,
Yeah.
they were looking like, hey yo, she's trouble. The side eye. One of them is holding the hand of the other, like, hold me, help me.
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
Oh,
That too, this is a great ending. I left it at that. Just because then it made me laugh. I was excited to see what was gonna happen. It
yeah.
was a good way to end it. I thought it was good.
So, well, with that said, so our last category is,
Yep.
is this enough to interest you to keep reading?
Absolutely. Yeah, 1000%. I gave it a 5 on that one.
5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been
I
a very
gave it a. Okay,
what'd you get?
sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I really kind of hit the whole emotional spectrum a little bit, I think, when I was reading this one. Like it was happy. I was kind of sad when John Stewart, didn't want to talk, right? Because, if you've lived in America as a man, you kind of know what that's like to be expected not to talk to people about things and just kind of keep moving forward or whatever.
It's
right?
weird if people even like care or like say you want to talk about it. It's
Exactly.
a little defensive.
Right. And then when Sinestro saved Vex, or really showed Vex she could save herself, all of that stuff, and then to get to the end and actually have a good laugh about it, like I thought it was excellent, and I would absolutely keep reading it. Just enough said. Don't really need to elaborate any further than that.
So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and I would have given it a 5 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I
You
didn't
didn't
is
like that first
because
third.
John Stewart's kind of the marquee name for this issue, but Sinestro, I think, was the main character.
I agree.
And I would love to see him like recruit other prospective lanterns and how he notices who they are, their potential, their aptitude, and then how he talks with them. I was like, damn, like he's like tough love, like manifested. You know what I
mean? And in a weird way, kind of, if not for his previous, lifestyle, quote unquote, he would for sure be the leader of the Green Lantern.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's crazy that your biggest op could also be like, your general or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That is crazy.
So with all that, the final scores, Raymond, you gave it 19 out of 20. Almost perfect. Almost perfect.
Yeah.
I'm 16.5 out of 20.
Oh, okay. What did you get? Read the scores?
The scores again? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for story, you 4.5, me 3.5. Artwork, you 5, me 4.5. Characters, you 4.5, me 4. Keep reading, you 5, and me 4.5.
Okay, it was that 3.5.
It was the story that did the biggest.
It was the 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, if it was Sinestro talking to
the whole
like
thing.
6 out of 5.
Yeah.
But
19 out of 20 sounds right for me. I thought it was well written. The art was great. Recommend. Absolutely recommend. Because even if you don't like John Stewart specifically for whatever reason, you will enjoy it because he kind of is, 1C, 1B in terms of main characters. You know what I mean? So I think I would absolutely keep reading it and I would recommend it.
But man, as well, the Gen C would say, he has the motion.
Oh my God. Please don't say that. Please don't say that. We're gonna start saying things like jester gooning, maxing, and things like that.
Like save some for the rest of us, John Stewart. Goddamn.
Yeah. Well,
that's what Sinestro's upset about.
Although, if we're talking about that, he can have the two because they seem like they might commit a crime on you if you do something like, nah, I'm good.
Not for real.
I don't want you to be able to I'm okay with you being a little strong, but I don't want you to be able to actually kill me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
all you got is a ring, man. That ring goes off, you're done. You are absolutely done. You're just squishy parts. You're just
what if like you're sweating and it just slips off
anything?
I don't know, anything, and then what? But all right, that's cool.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this week. We had a great time with this one. I would definitely recommend this to anybody. Please, if you have recommendations, somebody in your town, in your state, send them to us, please. We'd love to get all the information we could, all the recommendations we could.
Any storyline. It's not superheroes. It's not anything.
Oh yeah. Any comic book story. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
See you guys later.
Peace.